What is up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 18. Episode 18 is brought to you by, well, you, I guess. You, our listeners, anybody, that supported us so far. It's pretty much you, whether you're just a listener or you've subscribed, liked, followed, all that good stuff, or maybe you follow our social media, or maybe you're one of those really wealthy people and you financially supported us, helped us get some new equipment. Maybe you bought some merch, whatever it was, but you helped us. And I don't want you to think we don't have our own skin in the game in this thing. Believe me, we do. We're not asking for handouts or anything like that. So, but we got the new laptop, we got some new equipment, we got some good sounding stuff. So I guess we're in it for the long haul. I don't know. It didn't just fizzle out. So, but I definitely wanted to say thank you to all you guys who have supported us in one way or another. Some of you have just shared kind words of encouragement, and for that, I'm just thankful and grateful. Keep doing that. Keep sharing those words. If I could encourage you, comment on our social media, answer the Q&A and the poll questions at the end of the episodes. I know they show up on Spotify. I'm not sure where else. Have some fun with that. The more traffic we get, the more this thing's going to spread to people we don't even know. So the YouTube channel, obviously, is now we got a new computer. Maybe we'll start doing a little more video. But there's more to it. If you want to set up a camcorder and have, guests, then you kind of need two cameras. And I'm just not quite there yet. But the YouTube channel still has some cool pictures on it. I always try and throw a few different pictures on there, things like that. But put comments in the comment section on the YouTube videos too. That helps. The YouTube channel's lacking a little bit. It's only around like 59 subscribers, I think, compared to the Spotify one that keeps growing. I think last time I checked, we're at 119. So you definitely have to follow, like, subscribe, comment. That helps generate traffic and traction, and the algorithms will start throwing it out there more and more and more. So we're definitely still growing in numbers, and that's mainly thanks to everyone for just spreading the word. Spread the word with everyone on your social media. If you guys want stickers are free. I will give you stickers. I'm starting to get really creative with that. I'm starting to know places I can leave them. If you go to a restaurant, you leave a couple on the table. Pretty much any place I would leave like a gospel tract, that's where I leave a sticker, except the stickers are smaller. So I've noticed that when I get gas at Quick Star or Casey's or wherever, the small square stickers fit right inside the credit card slot. You know what I mean? But they stick out so you can still see them. So the next person, if they don't go to tap, and maybe even if they do go to tap, but they'll see it. But if they're definitely going to go put their card in, they can't put their card in because there's a sticker there. And you just leave it, and people just wonder. The curiosity will at least get them to check it out, hopefully. But, so hit me up if you want some of those. Help me spread the word. Keep doing what you're doing. We've got some really good guests coming up. Meeting with a kid tomorrow night. Start, putting the final touches on, not really the final touches, but just getting to know his story and things like that. So then I can kind of get his outline together, and then he'll be coming on. So, and we might possibly have our first Zoom episode coming up, in the next month, 2 months. Who knows? I think this laptop we got has the capability to record that and edit that. So, I don't know, doing a Zoom interview and recording, does that make you big time? Does that make you a big time podcaster? I don't think so, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see where this thing goes. Like I said before, get on the train now, get on the bandwagon now, because if you do it later, then you're just kind of jumping on the bandwagon. Get on it now before there's a bandwagon and say, man, I was with those guys in the beginning. You know what I mean? You want to be that guy. Trust me, you do. This episode may be shorter, because obviously I don't have a guest, but I do have some things I want to share with you guys, and I will probably make you laugh, which is the best medicine. You guys all know that, but I'll also make you think at some point, and I'll probably challenge you, and hopefully I will encourage you at some point, because that's our main goal. So first off, the Alive and Running registration is open. If you don't know Alive and Running, then you obviously missed Ryan Nesbitt's episode. Alive and Running is a nonprofit in Iowa. It's Alive and Running Iowa. And they do mental health year-round, okay? They do have this one event in the summer, always Father's Day weekend. It's a 5K event on Saturday morning, Father's Day weekend, but they also have an event that Friday night where people come together, and they usually have special speakers and things like that, and they share testimonies, and just a super, a really good time for encouragement if you have been affected by suicide, or if you're struggling with mental health, or you're just passionate about those areas. This is where you want to be. In Iowa, there's no other group to be hitched to. Ryan Nesbitt, Troy Belmer, their wives, their families, this is a passion for them because they've been affected by it. And I love hearing from them guys and seeing what they're doing. Check them out on Facebook. Sign up for the 5K. Even if you're not a runner, I'm actually thinking about dusting off my running shoes and running it this year for the first time in years. We'll see if that happens, but it's a great event to be a part of. It's a good cause, and check it out. Registration's open. If you don't want to run it, sign up. You can just still financially contribute. I think they might have like a ghost runner option or thing like that, where you just get the shirt. You don't even got to run, things like that. But if you need encouragement in mental health, this is a great event to be a part of. So let's see here. I also want to give some props to a guy who deserves it. And you guys have heard me say, and I tell my kids this all the time. I always tell them, when you notice someone gets it right, someone does it right, let them know that you notice that they got it right. That's super encouraging. And if you don't know, if you've been living under a rock or you don't live in the Fairbank area, Michael Gruetzmacher ran for city council not that long ago, and he lost by a very narrow margin. I mean, it was real close. But then what happened after that was there was a council member who stepped down. And the city council filled that position, filled that seat with a person of their choosing. And instead of Michael, who's very active in the youth sports, I think he's the recreation league director. He secured I want to say it's like a $7,000 grant for ball diamond improvements and stuff. And this is what we want. We want younger parents involved in the community, right? We do. And that's Michael. So instead of just whining and complaining and bad, I mean, maybe he did whine and complain a little bit. I know I would have, but instead of just doing that and just talking a bunch of trash and not doing anything, he actually did something about it. He went around and got enough signatures to request a special election, which was, totally legal. He got the signatures that he needed, so now we have a special election. Then he had to go back out and get more signatures to get enough to get his name on the ballot, and he did that. And it was this past Tuesday. He won 129 to 127. He won by 2 votes. For the rest of Fairbank is halfway decent sized for a small town. What is that? That's not even 300 people. Is that I don't know. Is that a quarter of the population voted? Guys, we can do better. I know we can do better. So it was really cool. It was up and down. Even if he had lost to Mr. Hyde, Tom Hyde, he owns Gavin Marine. He's a local business owner. I'm sure he was up for the job. I'm sure he's a good guy. I know Bridget is friends with his daughter. Gruetz, he didn't have a pity party. He got to work, and it paid off. So I just wanted to say congrats to the newest member of the Fairbank City Council. That kind of inspired me, the effort he put in for that. He went after it and got it. Okay. I also want to give a shout out to my boys on the Out of the Church Attic podcast. They have mentioned us by name twice recently, and I'm not even going to tell you what they were talking about. They mentioned us, and they had a little bit of banter back and forth. The only thing I can tell you, it was about my name, and I'm not going to tell you first name or last name. You will have to go listen to find out. Well, maybe not. I might insert it here. I don't know. But they mentioned us twice, and they had me laughing. So you got to hear it for yourself. If I don't put it in here, then you got to go check them out. They're on Spotify. They're everywhere. Out of the Church Attic. Colton Burse, Pastor Randy Ramsey, they're doing a great job down there in North Carolina, and they have a remarkably well put together show, much better than this. Their quality on every level is really good. Their intro music has a banjo. I mean, they're in Appalachia. Well, you got to have a banjo. How cool is that? And I hope to be able to get those guys on here as maybe one of our first Zoom episodes. We will see. But if I'm good at what I do, I will hopefully, right here in this blank area right here, I will include some pictures, or maybe I will just play the audio of those 2 episodes where they're kind of having some fun at my expense. But hey, that's what brothers do. They have that freedom to do that. We're all on the same team here. So let's see here.
Bacon in our cart, and we made it to the checkout, and she picked it up and was like, I don't really think I need this, and we stuck it in the drink fridge.
That is the thing, dude. I will do my best, unless I'm just not feeling it, to put it back in its original spot.
Yeah.
Welcome to Out of the Church Attic, a podcast that explores Christian faith and practice in the heart of Appalachia. My name is Colton, and I am a local church member here in North Carolina.
And I'm Randy, a pastoral resident here in North Carolina.
And we're coming to you spiritually from our church's attic to discuss the issues that drive and thrive the churches in Appalachia.
What's up, guys?
Hey.
Just a little bit of backstory. We have a couple listeners that are local, and so
most of our listeners are local.
We basically, not most of them. I mean, like, we've got some guys in like Iowa and Louisiana.
That's true. We got Tony in Iowa. We got maybe Eric.
Shout out to Tony and Eric. I forgot where he is.
Who's the guy who has the What Is Up podcast? Bubba.
Oh, Bubba.
Oh, yeah, Bubba listens, which is his real name, which, by the way, Bubba, if you're listening, I love that name.
Oh, yeah.
That is so freaking awesome.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I was Bubba until literally 3 years ago. Like, literally everyone called me that until my nephew was born. Actually, no, that's not true. I was Bubba until 2014. It was the first time that I took like a church as an official pastor. I can call myself Pastor Randy. And I when I was thinking about that, I was like, I do not.
You cannot call me Pastor Bubba.
You cannot call me Pastor Bubba. You cannot do that. So that's when I officially dropped the term.
That's awesome.
Which it has never been just a name for us. Like, season 1 was recorded 100% huddled around a little table in a church's attic, in our church's attic. But now, like, we have like comfy chairs and we have boom mics.
I got my own equipment. Now, granted, some of the stuff we had,
right,
but I did not have the equipment for us. And friend of the podcast, Bubba from What Is Up podcast, I saw him, like, they had just bought some new gear for their podcast. So we're hoping, I need to get back in touch with him soon and see if he actually wants to get us on for his or something. So we're doing some collaborations possibly. So it's feeling real. It's feeling real. So we will see where it goes. But hey.
But yeah, go check them out. Especially season 1. Season 1 was great. It deals with some really, really good topics. Whether you're a churchgoer or you're not a churchgoer, they take a look at some of the issues from the inside the church and outside the church perspective, and it's really good. It's eye-opening. It's that kind of stuff you wish you knew more about, maybe, or you've always wondered, or you've thought maybe this is some of the stuff that's wrong with church. That was some of the most intriguing stuff in season 1. They talked about the things that sometimes, when the church gets it wrong, or maybe it looks like they get it wrong, where they're coming from, things like that. It just really shed a lot of truth on a lot of things, and they're not boring. They're intelligent guys, but they're also funny and personable, and it's definitely worth your time. And they're usually very short, much shorter than our episode. I think they try and stay between 30 and 45 minutes, somewhere in there. They're on the shorter end, and they do once a week. So check out those guys on the Out of the Church Attic podcast. Okay, next thing I wanted to share with you guys was something we were discussing at work recently. Let's see, last week, I thought the dogs were going to flare up right there. That was kind of just a minor one. But I think last week we talked a little bit about O.J. Simpson at work, because I just wanted to get everybody's opinion. Like, this many years later, pretty much everybody knows he did it. But I think I was like an 8th grader or 9th grader at the time, and like racial lines were drawn, and like there was a lot of people who thought about his innocence and just knew he was innocent because the LAPD was racist and all these kinds of there were all kinds of different storylines in this trial. And now this many years later, like it's very clear. No one can know for sure, but there was never another killer found. There were never any other leads. OJ didn't, set up some sort of a task force to find, the killer of his ex-wife or any of that stuff. So I think everyone kind of knows what probably happened there, but that wasn't the main thing we were talking about. What we were talking about is somehow we got into the discussion about a funny story of mine, and so I'm going to share that with you guys right now. Some of you guys know it, but some of you probably don't. And so this is kind of a warning, and it doesn't make me look good, but it's a true story. A lot of people grow up, and most of them are taught by their parents that when you buy a vehicle, okay, so let's say you buy a used vehicle, you're going to pay taxes on that as you put it into your name. And if you have a good parent, they're going to tell you that somebody bought that car brand new and they paid taxes on it. And then if there's 2 or 3 other owners before you, they each paid taxes on that vehicle, and now you're going to pay taxes on that vehicle. So the thought comes into your head, don't tell them you paid $5,000 for that car. Tell them you paid $2,500 or $2,000 or whatever it may be. So I had a phase where I was really into motorcycles, and I mean, it just seemed like every other year, I'd buy a bike, then I'd sell it, then I'd buy another one. Well, a buddy of mine, Kirby Marcourt, he sold me a pretty nice motorcycle, and he gave me a good deal on it, $4,000. So when I went to register it, of course, without, a good Christian guy like myself doesn't even think that he's lying, I put down $2,000. So no big deal, right? I just go about my business. I save myself whatever it was, the 5% tax. It's actually not much. It was less than a couple $100, obviously. But a little bit of time goes by. I want to say the summer goes by or whatever, maybe a year goes by. I sold the bike. I didn't even have the bike anymore. And then it was a winter day. Omega had shut down all 3 shifts of production because we had, like 6 inches of snow, but the winds blew and gusted and all that stuff. So they shut down 3 shifts of production. So I was at home, and an unmarked white Crown Victoria pulls up, and a guy with a trench coat gets out and knocks on the door. And there goes the dog. Yeah, we're not big time yet. I think that just answered that. So he knocks on the door. I let him in, and he asks a couple questions about the motorcycle. And right away in my head, I'm thinking, what did Kirby do before he sold that bike to me? What is wrong with it? It wasn't stolen. It was, what was it? It was a nice bike. And then he asked the question, do you mind asking? Or he probably didn't say, do I mind? But he said, how much did you pay for it? And I paused. And that's when he knew. He goes, don't think, I got you. What did you pay for it? And I said $4,000. And he's looking at his clipboard or whatever he had, and he said, well, why'd you put 2? And obviously he knows why. He's just whatever. And Sarah, bless her heart, trying to stick up for me, and not my finer moment, she just kind of blurts out from the kitchen. She's like, you're out on a day like today when there's a tow ban and all that, and you're doing this? And that guy looked at her and said, yes, ma'am, and I'm finding a lot of people home. So, yeah, he got me. And so we had a little more conversation. He told me how it was going to go, that it was going to be a Class D misdemeanor, which, is as low as it gets. It's barely above a moving violation, a traffic ticket, but you got to go to court. And I do remember one more thing. At some point before the conversation was over, Sarah said again, she jumped in. She should have just gone in the other room, but she said, well, we can't just, pay back the difference, the money that was owed, that we basically cheated the state out of in taxes. And he said, ma'am, that would be like robbing a bank, getting caught, and then asking if you can just return the money and everything's okay. So, yeah, he was a Department of Transportation investigator, and he taught me that, yeah, you don't lie about what you pay for vehicles. So I was kind of upset. I took it pretty well that day, but I was shocked because I know everybody does that. Not everybody, not 100% of people, but most people do that because they just know the state doesn't need all that money again and again and again and again. But I had one friend who told me, Ryan Peterson, he said, yeah, if you can't afford the taxes on it, don't buy it. Like, just do the right thing. And it hit me one day in church, actually. The pastor got done preaching, and I realized this whole time, I was like mad that I got caught. And I had never stopped to think that I should have been, how does God feel about me? Here I'm sitting there stewing about being caught red-handed, and here it was me who was in the wrong. I lied. I was dishonest. It was my own fault. How does God look at me? I mean, he's got to be super disappointed in me, but that's not how God works. So, kind of convicted me of that. I grew from that, but yeah, I did have to take a day off work, went to court, had to pay back the full 5% on the $4,000, that I paid. And then there was a fine with that. And then all the court cost fines and all that, and the penalty and all that stuff. And it quickly jumped over $1,000. So trying to save, instead of, less than a couple $100, it ended up costing me over $1,000. And I learned my lesson right then and there. So some people find that funny. Some people find it shocking, but yes, they do that. So let's say that bike, my buddy gave me a good deal. Let's say that bike was worth, $5,000-$6,000. I got it for $4,000. And then I paid $2,000. That's a pretty big discrepancy without it being wrecked or a blown engine or something like that. So I definitely learned my lesson there. But if you got a story to share, if you got an opinion on that story, if you agree or disagree with me, or you got something to say, I want to know what your thoughts are on that, because everybody's got an opinion, and some people can't believe that happened, but it does happen. So why don't you tell me what you think in an email, whatisuppodcast@gmail.com, or maybe put it on a comment on the Facebook page or on the Instagram or something like that. Let's get a little conversation going. I want to know what you think about that, because that was probably one of the most embarrassing moments in my life, but I also grew a lot from it. So we all get embarrassed from time to time, and sometimes, like I just showed you, it's our own doing, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's your friends and your coworkers that will embarrass you. There's another story going around. Oh, there go the dogs again. They're ready for this one. Oh, man. This is the one. This one's going to make you laugh. And for my old Omega friends, yeah, you know what story I'm about to tell. You guys did me wrong. You did me wrong. That's all I can say. Hopefully James gets those dogs quieted down. Good grief. Years ago, I was at Omega, and it was when they were about to remake the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, or I don't know, whatever the original was called, Willy Wonka, I don't know. They're about to remake that one, the one with Johnny Depp. And somebody had mentioned one day at work that Frito-Lay was like partnering with the movie, and they were going to do a big promotion where they were going to start putting golden tickets in bags of all their products. Full-size bags, mini bags of chips, anything Lay's. And like there were going to be all kinds of prizes and even some grand prizes and stuff like that. So they planted that seed one day, and no one said a word about it for, I want to say it was almost like 2 months. They planned this. Everyone in the sanding department planned this. And they knew that I always brought a sandwich and chips for lunch. And this is how I know this was like meant to be. It was because for some reason, there was a day where I ate my chips at first break rather than lunch. So at lunchtime, I'm sitting down in our area, and Gordy comes walking by, a coworker, and he says, "Hey, the vending machine, I just got a free one. You pay for one bag and 2 drop down." He goes, "You want it?" And I go, "What a coincidence. Like, I need a bag of chips to go with my sandwich." So I open my chips and my sandwich, and I'm eating, and then I feel something in there. And I pull it out, and it is a laminated golden ticket. And this thing looks legit. It says grand prize. It has fine print. It is everything that you would think it was going to be, and it said free potato chips for life. And I stood up in triumphant victory and just turned around, my arms raised like I'm some sort of champion, like I just hit the Powerball or something. I may even have yelled a little bit. Then I feel bad because I realized that guy who walked by gave me his chips. And here I'm thinking, this is like winning the lottery, so it would be wrong for me to keep it. I go back over to his department and I show him the chips, I show him the ticket, and I'm like, dude, if you want this, it's yours. Rightfully, it's not mine. And he just has this smile on his face. And then it kind of hit me like, what are you smiling for? Like, you should kind of be shocked right now. You just won free chips for life. And he said, yeah, I don't really know why I'm smiling. Maybe you ought to go back over there. And when I turn around and start walking back, there's everyone kind of strategically spread out in the area, and they're all looking at me. And one gal, Shannon, she had her arm over, she's leaning on the table. She had her coat or something over her lunch bag, and she just kind of lifted up and pulled out a camcorder that was hidden and recorded the whole stinking thing. They planned that, they executed that. And that is why I think it was at like my 10-year breakfast at Omega or something like that. The supervisors eat with their workers that are being recognized, and they all say something good about their employees. My supervisor, Dan Seek, stood up and said, this is the most gullible guy at Omega. He thought he won free chips for life. So I'm giving you permission to go ahead and take some time and laugh at that. That video's out there. I should get a hold of Shannon and see if I can get that. Maybe I could air that on a future episode or something. So if anybody's listening to this, help me make that happen. So, yeah, that was rough. Okay. Let's see. Let's move on. As I'm preparing this weekend sermon, I'm preaching again this weekend. I am going to continue on Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, and we're going to get to a couple verses here where it talks about keeping your word. When you make vows or you make oaths or a prom, let your yes be yes, your no be no. And it's only a couple verses. And it's just super good stuff about honesty and keeping your word and vows and everything like that. But I can't help but share right now about how sometimes we make statements that we have every intention of keeping our word or our promise, but we don't. And then it comes back to bite us. Okay. I've said we would never have another trampoline, okay? I get tired of mowing around them. You got to, unstake them from the ground. You got to move it. You got to mow. Then you either leave it in the new spot or you have to move it again and move it back. Then you got to restake it. Whenever the kids come over and they, have a sleepover or whatever, and they all play on the trampoline, a bunch of garbage is out there the next day, Capri Sun bags, silly string, cans, just... I'm just not a fan of trampolines at all. And I just thought we were done with them. But Grace really wanted one. I think she even earned her own money to buy one. And then a friend of ours, Beth, gave her one. So I put it up and I had it all set up. And then one day her and Sarah moved it to the backyard. Well, if you know where I live, that's the north side of the house. And there's nothing but cornfield on the north side. And there's nobody on the west of us either. There is a pole building, I guess, but it's way over there. So what do you think happens as the wind blows when you live on the northwest edge of town and there's no one else around? Yeah, your trampoline, even if it's staked down, which it was, it just wasn't staked down as good as it should have been. This is what happens, and I'll insert the picture right here. If you've ever dealt with a tangled up, messed up trampoline, you know exactly what I'm saying. I can't stand these things. But I was actually able, me and JJ got it flipped over. We straightened out a bunch of pipe. Nothing was bent enough that it broke as we pulled it back straight again. And let's see if we can get another year out of this thing. But my goodness, the things we do for the people that we love, I swear, we do what we do for the ones we love, whether it's our kids or our spouse. I mean, that's why we do it. It's because we love them. And after 22 years of marriage, there just isn't much you can, anything new or original, it gets more and more difficult to get them a gift that will really kind of knock them off their feet or anything like that. So some of you have heard about this, what I'm about to tell you, but most of you probably haven't, is this year I decided, we don't do much for Valentine's Day. I think it's kind of a scam, but I always do something for her around Valentine's Day in honor of her mom's anniversary of when she passed on and went to heaven. So I do something for that instead. And this year, I, for some reason, decided I saw this ad, I think it was, or it was a podcast I listened to, and they were advertising this company called Songfinch. And you go on this website and you have a list of artists to choose from, and you start the process of having them write you a custom love song. And I started searching through the artists, and I was like, okay, well, I want a Christian artist or I want a country artist, and then they give you some people that they recommend. And so I settled on this guy who was posing outside of the Grand Ole Opry, younger guy, and Brad Sample is his name. And I was like, oh, yeah. And then you can listen to some of their stuff. So I was like, yeah, this is the guy. This is the kind of music Sarah likes. And then you start the process of entering all your information. And I mean, they want details. You basically have to tell them why you're writing the song, who you're writing it for. Do you want their name in the song? Tell us some of your history, in 500 words or less, or at least 500 words. They really want details so they can get to know you. You basically have to help them understand all of your relationship so that they can write a song specifically for you that relates to you or, to the person you're writing it to. And let me tell you, it was a process. It was a process, and this guy nailed it. He nailed it. There was really only one line in there that was just kind of a little bit overly romantic, kind of a generic line. The rest of it, he nailed who we are, what we're about, all of our past, where we're at now. I mean, it was money well spent, let me tell you that. And somebody actually, I think I mentioned it in my last sermon, and somebody said, oh, you need to just play that next time. Well, I'm not going to play it while I'm preaching. That would be that would be kind of weird, but I am going to try and insert it right here so you can take a listen and just be the judge for yourself.
Tried to lead me to Christ, but I wanted to make my own way. It took me a while to get it right. When your mom passed in high school, you had to grow up fast. But then by the grace of God above, He gave us a love that would last. God brought us together, no man can tear us apart. And Sarah, my love, you'll always have my heart. With the Lord as our center, there's one thing that I know: chords of three aren't easily broken. And with Jesus as my witness, you'll always have all my devotion. You make me laugh without trying, especially when you try to sing like Reba. After all these years, you're still my number one fan. I fall more in love every minute that I'm with you. You're my true love, my everything. I know you're my forever. I'd do anything and go anywhere as long as we're together. God brought us together. Sarah, my love, you'll always have my heart. With the Lord as our center, there's one thing that I know. Chords of three aren't easily broken. And with Jesus as my witness, you'll always have all my devotion. God brought us together, no man can tear us apart. And Sarah, my love, you'll always have my heart. With the Lord as our center, there's one thing that I know. Chords of three aren't easily broken. And with Jesus as my witness, you'll always have all my devotion.
It is on Spotify. It's called All of My Devotion. Yeah, it's pretty special. I love it. I think he did great. But that's the kind of stuff you come up with when you've been together this long. You know, it's hard to get them something that really let them know that how special they are to you. So if you want more details on how to do that for your special someone, you know, just look up Songfinch, or if you want to know personally from me, email me, message me, whatever. I'll help you out. Moving on, you guys know that I'm a big movie guy, and I wanted to make you guys aware of a film that's coming out this weekend. What is this? This is Thursday the 25th, so I mean it probably comes out tonight on a Thursday night, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday is opening weekend. It's called Unsung Hero. This is a true story about the hit band for King and Country. They're a really good Christian band. They just, even if you don't like Christian music, they're a good band. And it details the life of the Smallbone family and their immigration to the United States and the ups and downs, the highs and the lows. And I'm talking like they came all the way over here and the work situation didn't work out for the dad, and they were quickly in poverty. And now, you know, the daughter, you know, Rebecca St. James, she's one of the biggest Christian artists, and for King and Country is one of the biggest Christian bands of all time. It's going to be a pretty powerful movie, and you guys, you know I'm into that kind of stuff. So if I'm good at what I do, I'm going to try and play the trailer for you right now.
My place in this world. The wind is moving, but I'm standing still.
On my last tour back home, I lost a lot of money.
A life of pages, waiting to be found.
How can we say goodbye to everything that we know and love?
This is my last chance. I want to do something that matters.
A heart that's hopeful, a head that's full of dreams.
However you guys feel about being here, we need to pray for everything that we need.
But this becoming is harder than it seems.
But look around you. Your family, your faith.
Feels like
That's what makes you rich in life.
Welcome to Nashville, y'all. I don't know what tomorrow's gonna bring. This is our exciting adventure together. You have been given a beautiful voice.
She's a special one, David.
Trigger's getting other folks to see it.
Does anybody really care what a 16-year-old girl thinks about God?
I'm trying to protect her, and it will never be enough.
It's going to be dangerous and scary. It's going to be so hard that you want to go back. And giving in, it's not an option. We've got to fight our way forward.
Your family, they're not in the way. They are the way.
It takes a lot to live out your dream. Hard work and sacrifice. I trained this to be like you. You're my hero, Mum.
Are y'all from England?
Australia.
Australia. I wish I had an accent.
So go check that out. Go check that movie out. It's going to be good. It will encourage you. You remember I also promoted the heck out of the Blind movie. The true story about Phil and Kay Robertson and the early days before Duck Commander and everything, when Phil was on a completely different path in life. He was headed for nowhere, and the amazing turnaround in there. You know that's something not of himself. Men can't do that. Men can't pull themselves out of those situations and look at the impact they've had. So if you didn't get a chance to see The Blind, I might buy a few copies and do some giveaways or something like that, because I want everybody I know to see The Blind. It's one of the most powerful movies I've ever seen. It is not, it may have been lower budget, but it's not low budget, and it was just really well done. It was hard for me to watch because I can really relate to just being on a different path in life, even though I wasn't as bad as Phil. But just there comes a defining moment where you say, I'm going to do things differently. And Phil got to that point. I got to that point. And God didn't bless me with a multi-million-dollar duck call company or a TV show or anything. And that's fine. But the result is still the same. We're both going to go to the same place when this life is over because, we finally got to the end of ourselves and said, we're going to try it your way. Best decision we ever made. So.
Hear these rare stories. Well, how the impossible happened.
Miss Kay Caraway.
I feel.
Well,
Promise to love
And be with you forever.
this is one of those stories.
You can do just about anything you set your mind to, Phil Robertson. But it's the drink. He becomes the devil's side. You know that ain't your brother.
I ain't bringing a preacher man around here.
I heard you might be needing one.
We're fine.
I don't think we are, Phil.
I ain't the problem. You're the problem. Get out.
At some point in our lives, we are all going to feel desperately alone. And we realize that we ain't never alone. Someday, you're gonna have to fight for your marriage. When things get tough, guess what you do? You fight.
You must be one of Kay's friends, 'cause I know Phil ain't got no good-looking friends.
This is my sister.
Well, no, I was just being friendly.
Why don't you be friendly in that direction over there?
Yeah, okay.
One more I'm going to share with you, and I'll start with a question. Do you know, this is for my sports fans out there, do you know what the record for attendance is at a high school football game in Alabama? Alabama's pretty, 100% football state, okay? What do you think is the record for most attendance at a high school football game? 42,000 was the estimate. When this happened back in 1973, they were still letting people into the game. They were turning people away. It was at capacity. I mean, there's conflicting stories, but it was 42,000 people to a high school football game, Woodlawn versus Banks. It was back in the early 70s when the schools were desegregating, so the blacks and whites were starting to go to school together. And not that I was alive then, but that was a very tense time. That was a very rough time. There was, they called Birmingham Bombingham. There was a lot of racial division and just, a very ugly time in our country. But for 42,000 people to show up to watch these schools as they combined for the white kids and black kids to play together, something bigger was happening. Something special was happening. And if you do any research on it, just Google it, and you'll see a lot of stuff about the players, the ones that went to college, the ones that went to pros, and you'll read a little bit about what happened that year. And I think I have one article pulled up on my phone. share with you real quick. It says, Woodlawn is a faith-based drama inspired by the true events at Birmingham, Alabama High School in 1973. It focuses on how a sports chaplain helped convert nearly the entire Woodlawn High School football team to Christianity after it was desegregated. There was a guy who walked in there and just said that there's only one thing that's going to bring healing to the racial tension, to the violence and all that stuff, and that's Jesus. And it's a true story. And you can look back at you can but you can read about the coaches and what they said and how it changed them. And it cost the head coach of Woodlawn something. I mean, you can't just bring a Christian in there talking that kind of stuff, even back in the 70s, without facing some sort of opposition. But it had an impact on all those kids, on the coaches, on multiple schools even. So I want you guys to take my advice, watch the movie Woodlawn, and if I'm good at what I do, I will put in a trailer right here. If I'm not, you're just going to have to check it out. It's totally worth it.
Jesus says to love our enemies. We have to love those that oppose us. If you only love those that love you back, what kind of love is that?
There's something special about you. I can see it. You have a gift, and you have to decide what you want to do with it.
I can't. I mean, I play for a team that doesn't even want me. Anybody like me?
I'd like to have a meeting with your football team. I've seen things all over the country.
Well, you and I can see that meeting.
Do something about this.
It's not my fault, Owen. I'm trying to coach football.
It's bigger than football.
What would you say if I told you it doesn't have to be this way? What would you be prepared to do? I'm asking you right now to stand up and make a decision, to change, to forgive, to be forgiven. That's how much God loves you.
What just happened?
Look at me. I'm proud of you. Win or lose, you my son. The good book says, without a vision, the people perish. I say, go give it to them.
How many black players you got?
Not nearly enough.
Why you see that changing?
Because it's time. You know the difference between you and these people? They're cowards. And you ain't.
Nobody out there knows what's happened with this team. But when you win on this day, they will!
They call him Touchdown Tony Nathan. He's homegrown, right in Birmingham.
This is your moment. This is your time. So you go and take it. You go and take it.
This is what happens when God shows up.
So yeah, after watching a movie like that, I mean, you're just going to have to forgive me for not buying into like critical race theory. We've come a long way since the civil rights movement and all that violence and everything that, you know, was going on, trying to hold minorities and black people back in this country. Like, we are way past that. So why would we want to revive, you know, and be intentional about bringing back that kind of division and you know, having separate graduation ceremonies? It's like we want to segregate ourselves again, or we want to talk about reparations because minorities, you know, it's unfair to think they can get to a DMV to get an ID to vote. I've actually heard people say that on different news networks. Like, come on, that's like disrespectful to anyone, whether they're a minority or not. You really don't think they can get an ID to vote? I mean, my goodness. Or the people that are trying to teach kids in school, you know, white kids, that even if they don't realize it, they're an oppressor. They have all this privilege, so they owe somebody something else. You know, my kids haven't done anything to anybody. You cannot tell them that they are an oppressor. What's going to happen when you start doing that? When you start telling some kids they're oppressors and other kids they're victims just by the color of their skin? Does anybody have a word for what that is? Well, yeah, it's critical race theory. But that's like Marxist communism. It's simple history. Do just a little bit of research. Divide a group of people into two groups. Pit them against each other. Who's going to be the only one that can swoop in and bring order? It would be the government. So we don't need to go back like that. That's terrible. I'm never going to buy into that critical race theory and stuff. Don't judge people by their skin. Judge them by their character, and that's that. Treat people like you want to be treated. Bible still gives the best answers. I'm telling you, that's it. And that kind of stuff is not. That stuff is not it. The critical race theory and things like that. So, but I'm a realist too. I understand there's always probably going to be racism in this world. There are just some people who are just wrong, and and there's even people who are evil. I get that. I'm not that naive, but I know that we are much farther in the right direction than we were at the time of the civil rights movement. You watch a movie like Woodlawn, you'll realize how far we've come. Okay. There are people who would probably make you think it's just like that today, and it's not. That is not a reality. I grew up with plenty of black people and minorities. It's people want to make these lines dividing and stir up something that doesn't need to be there. So don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Let's see. But I will tell you this. There is going to be a time and place where none of that hatred, none of that division exists. When it's all said and done, it's not going to be on this earth, okay? And I want you to think: are you going to be there? This paradise, this place of perfection, where there's no more pain, there's no more suffering, there's no more evil, there's no more sin, there's no more death and disease. None of that. God promises any one of us can be there if we would just come to Him. It's that simple, okay? So now as we're getting a little deeper, yes, of course, I started it off light. Now we're going to bring it back deep. I told you this podcast is about highs and lows and everything in between. My last topic is going to be Richard Dawkins. Now, if you guys have been following the podcast for a while, I mentioned him a couple different times along with other people. Dawkins is one of what they consider the four horsemen, one of the four horsemen of the modern atheist movement. And I've had this theory that some of the things he said, he's had a few colleagues, close colleagues. One of them was his right-hand man, his assistant, has left atheism for Christianity. And Dawkins even made a post saying, it appears there may be more I have to learn about Christianity. And then, you got guys like Joe Rogan and things like that who have been longtime progressive, liberal, atheist or agnostic. And he is searching for truth. He's open for truth. He's starting to acknowledge some of the things that are in Scripture are good. He's having people on his podcast that are kind of influencing that. And the doors are opening in these kinds of people because the world isn't getting better. So Dawkins recently made a statement, and it kind of validated my opinions that much more. So I'm going to play the video for you if I can get it. If I can pull it off the internet, put it in, we'll watch it, and we'll discuss it.
Richard Dawkins has just come out as a Christian, a special sort of Christian.
I must say I was slightly horrified to hear that Ramadan is being promoted instead. I do think that we are culturally a Christian country. I call myself a cultural Christian. I'm not a believer, but there's a distinction between being a believing Christian and being a cultural Christian. And so, I love hymns and Christmas carols, and I sort of feel at home in the Christian ethos. I feel that we are a Christian country in that sense. It's true that statistically the number of people who actually believe in Christianity is going down, and I'm happy with that. But I would not be happy if, for example, we lost all our cathedrals and our beautiful parish churches. So I count myself a cultural Christian. I think it wouldn't matter if we substituted any alternative religion. That would be truly dreadful.
For the last 40 years, you've been zealous to destroy the faith of Christians. Like a religious zealot, you've done it through every means possible, and now you have to tragically reap what you've sowed.
Point, which is that, as we know, church attendance is plummeting, but the erection of mosques across Europe, I think 6,000 are under construction, and there are many more, are being planned. So do you regard that as a problem? Do you think that matters?
Listen to him stammer as he tries to answer, because he knows what's going to happen. History attests to it. He's going to get Islam in place of Christianity.
Yes, I do, really. I mean, I might choose my words carefully. I might choose my words carefully. If I had to choose between Christianity and Islam, I choose Christianity every single time. It seems to me to be a fundamentally decent religion, in a way that I think Islam is not.
He clearly knows the difference between the two. Christianity says to love your neighbor as yourself, to love even your enemies and to do good to them and show them kindness. Islam doesn't say to love your enemies. It says to kill those who don't embrace Islam.
When Muslims go and conquer the adjacent country, what do? We kill them all? No. The Prophet says, the first thing you do is call them to Islam. If they refuse, then tell them Allah obliged upon you to pay taxation. In return, when enemy comes and attack your country, you don't fight. We Muslims protect you. Subhanallah, for this little money? Yes. And you enjoy sitting in your homes and in your country and live your life normally. But the ruling is for Sharia. So you do not open nightclubs, you do not fornicate. If they refuse, then we have to fight. And if we fight you, then we capture you, you become our slaves, and we take your land, and you take because you refuse. I give you two good options in the coming 40, 50 years when the Muslims become strong.
You rejected the light, and now you have to live with the darkness. He's afraid to expose their agenda, so he wimps out by speaking of their treatment of women. He wants to say it, but he lacks the courage to say it.
The way women are treated, Christianity is not great about that. It's had its problems with female vicars and female bishops and things. But there's an active hostility to women, which is promoted, I think, by the holy books of Islam. I'm not talking about individual Muslims, who, of course, are quite different. But the doctrines of Islam, the Hadith and the Quran, is fundamentally hostile to women, hostile to gays, and I find that I like to live in a culturally Christian country, although I do not believe a single word of the Christian faith.
In answering a question, Tom Holland said, not really, because secularism and Dawkins' own brand of evangelical atheism are both expressions of a specifically Christian culture, as Dawkins himself, sitting on the branch he's been soaring through and gazing nervously at the ground far below, seems to have begun to realize.
I do admit there are things in the universe I don't understand.
Okay.
But my response to that is not to make up silly stories.
Some pretty good stories. Some of them are pretty good stories.
40%, 45% of the American people believe literally in Adam and Eve. That's a shocking figure.
What is special about that book?
Because you believe it's all true, don't you?
I do, yeah.
And his wife turned into a block of salt when she looked back. Do you believe that happened?
I believe it happened because Jesus did.
The Goat Herder's Guide to the Universe.
Before approaching the bench in traffic court. I think most people who claim they're religious don't really think Jonah lived inside of a whale. Meaning in our own lives, our lives can become, in fact, richer than believing in these fairy tales.
When you were a kid and they were telling you whatever you believe in religion, do you think if they had switched the fairy tales that they read to you in bed with the Bible, you would know the difference? Do you think if there was the fairy tale about a man who lived inside of a whale and it was religion that Jack built the beanstalk today, you would know the difference? Why do you believe in one fairy tale and not the other?
So when someone says they believe in the Word of God literally, what do you mean when you say that? And no one's ever answered me. There's a code going on that I need the Rosetta Stone. I need someone to sit me down and go, Pen.
Pen. I actually took you up on your offer. 3 times I asked you to come and sit down with me, and 3 times you refused. The first time was after I'd interviewed Professor Lawrence Krauss for one of our movies in a hotel room in Washington, D.C. Would you like to do an interview? You declined. The second time I asked you to sit down with me was a little later after Professor Krauss had interviewed me. Hey, what are you? You declined. The third time was when you approached me on the sidewalk outside of the hotel. Once again, you refused, this time saying that you weren't qualified.
You and I can sit down and have a talk. I really appreciate talk. Yes, you are.
You then asked me who it was that made God. After I answered that question, I gave you scientific evidence for God's existence. Our 15-minute conversation was filmed. It was very congenial, and in fact, a few days later, you spoke well of it both on your podcast and in a magazine interview. But then I received an email from your manager that talked about your New York attorneys becoming involved if we publicly release the footage.
You've just watched a teaser from our documentary, Crazy Bible. You're going to love this. You can find out details on how to watch it after this.
Okay, so that video, it does a couple different things for me. It encourages me because I think, yes, some of the stuff he said is kind of letting me know, like, he's admitting that the fruit that is produced from being obedient to God and His Word is good fruit compared to everything else. It really is. We read a book in Sunday school a couple years ago, Kingdom Driven Life, I think it was, by Pastor Sunday Adelijah, who had planted the largest growing Christian church in Ukraine before they got invaded and all that stuff's going on. And he had some people in that book who said you can clearly see when you're talking about humanitarian needs and welfare programs and things like that, it is the non-government entities that have the best results. What do you call it? Non-GMOs, government mandated organizations or something like that. He said it's those. It's the churches. It's the Samaritan's Purse. It's the ones that are doing what they do because of their heart for people, because of what Jesus did for them, that have longer lasting results and are just far more beneficial than just some sort of a welfare program that comes from the top of the government down. Some sort of an entitlement system that's supposed to help lift people up, and it could. I mean, some of them are designed to do that, but when you have people doing something because they want to do it to help other people, they say that's much better. And so when Dawkins says that kind of stuff, it makes me think, okay, he's admitting that the Christian values, biblical values and morals produce a far superior society, a society that he wouldn't want to live in any other one because the UK is moving more and more towards Islam. And let me tell you, you start getting into that stuff, when you start looking at Sharia law and stuff like that, these supposed college students, if they're really that young and they're protesting this kind of stuff, I mean, if they really want to go over and live under Sharia law, give it a try. Give it a try. Get a plane ticket, get out of here. See how much you like it, okay? It's not very kind. It's not very kind. It's very demanding, and their punishments are severe for not following those commands. But it's hard for me to understand Dawkins because he's done more to try and stop people from coming to faith in Jesus, which he can't stop anything that God doesn't want to happen. But here he's made it his whole life and adult career at bashing this movement and these beliefs and the Bible itself. And now he's saying, but I don't want to live in a world without its influence. It's kind of hypocritical, but he is being honest. He's saying, I'm a cultural Christian, even though I don't believe a word of the Bible. So he is being honest. But I just got to think, man, you don't get to have it both ways. You don't get to do that. At some point, something's got to go off in your mind and say that is a very just absurd statement. I want to live in a world, in a culture, in a society that is influenced by Christianity and the Word of God, even though I don't believe a word of it. I'm a cultural Christian, not a Bible-believing Christian. Well, maybe you ought to open the book and give it another look, because you obviously find some benefit in it. So I think that's all I got for you guys today. Stew on that for a little bit. Chew on it. Think about it. If you got something you want to say or share, send it in to me in an email. Maybe I will read it. I've told you guys I would love to have a mailbag episode. Out of the Church Attic had a mailbag episode. That's why they mentioned us. Send me something. I will read it. We'll talk about it. If you got other topics you want me to cover, if you got guests you want me to have on, if you want to come on, send me an email. But like I said at the beginning, guys, please follow us, subscribe us, support us, share us, leave stickers wherever you can, tell your friends, post it on your social media. We're just going to keep growing. We're not getting rich on this thing. I am trying to do something good. I'm trying to encourage people. I'm trying to challenge people. I'm trying to, make people laugh too, have some fun, have some good medicine, let people share their stories. There's a tremendous amount of benefit from just letting people come on and share the up and downs of their life. So I thank you guys for sticking with us, and I really do value all your support. It means a lot to me. It keeps me going, me and my whole family. It's a big deal to us. We appreciate every single one of you. So Lord willing, I'll see you on the next one.